Hello everyone, this is Daniel.
And I'm Alexis.
So today we are going to learn about the Treaty of Versailles. But first, we must learn about a little bit of World War One. So during 1914 to 1918, we are introduced to a grave war on the European peninsula or European continent, in which many of the major powers at that time were in this war, with sides such as the Germans, the Austrians, and then on the other side you saw the French and the Great British. But this war was very bloody, very different because, as you can see here, they fought in trenches. They fought with new state-of-the-art weapons such as tanks, machine guns, even poisonous gas out there in the background. But all of this cultivated into a very messy war that will show impacts on today's world. But towards the end of the war, we started getting into the main topic of this little video, and that is the Treaty of Versailles.
Alright, so towards the end of the war, which we're gonna say 1918, we started seeing that Germany was suffering a lot of losses. They weren't really in the game, as you could say, so they needed a way out. And they decided to propose negotiations, which ended up with the decision to make a treaty, which we now refer to as the Treaty of Versailles. So, this treaty, it was pretty controversial because although Germany proposed it, they were excluded from its terms and ideals. So, the Allies were the ones who made the treaty. And when they made it, they made 15 terms and 440 articles. But France really wanted to punish Germany for all the inconveniences they caused. So they really weren't too neutral on the terms made, and that really caused a bunch of that was the thing that caused the controversy. So the U.S. and Great Britain really weren't so persistent on the punishment, but in the end, we were left with a pretty bad treaty.
And so, adding further on about like the US's and the Great Britain's neutrality, Germany originally thought they were accepting a peace treaty built off Woodrow Wilson's 14 points program, which ensured a lasting peace. Of course, that wasn't really the intended outcome, because the treaty essentially built up on three major things that they needed to do. First, they had to dismantle their army and keep it at capacity of 100,000 men, and they had to get rid of like their U-boats, their submarines. And they had to give up territory and give it to already big colonizers such as Great Britain and France. And the worst of all, they had to pay a hefty sum of money. But that's not even the worst. Albeit, even though I said it was the worst of all, because the worst of it all was they had to bring on the shame and mentality that they caused the war. And so, because of that, they were already in a bad situation, having to like endure this burden as if it's a birthmark of the devil. And so, essentially, after political leaders in Germany finally get to sign this treaty, they were forced, by the way, because I'm pretty sure there was something in a nutshell that said, if you didn't cooperate with us, we will burn down your country. So they signed it, and of course civilians of Germany at that time didn't enjoy it because, you know, they've essentially became weakened, they became humiliated. And so from that, they had to get a lot of... They needed to a way out. Because at that time, because of their hefty sum of debt that they had to pay, France decided to rub the wound even more with salt. And so, they essentially occupied the main economic sectors and business sectors of Germany, causing them to further go into debt, possibly bankruptcy, and plus starvation.
Yep. They got a hyperinflation for their economy, so their economy pretty much got destroyed. And in the end, that caused starvation for many of the families in Germany. So you could see why the Germans were really desperate to get a revenge or anything for all that embarrassment and inconvenience that it caused. It was pretty bad.
So, here's my question on how Germany worked. What would you do to improve your life? That's essentially what they had to do. So, at that time, many political leaders were assassinated. They were destroyed. They were killed because they went along with this treaty that essentially made them look bad. So at that time, different political parties, aka the Nazis, were one of the ones that were prominent at that time. Their ideas were radical, but because of the desperation that Germany was in, they needed a way out. So, they started listening to those ideas because they were promised that they would be able to get in a better place. And so, essentially, Germany allows Hitler to rise in power because of how beat up they were mentally and physically. So after that, Hitler basically tore up the Treaty of Versailles because he noticed that the Allies weren't paying attention, even though they were trying to enforce it at one point. So he essentially created a even stronger Germany to be used in World War II. So the Treaty of Versailles really didn't end the war. It just caused a little break, a little timeout. Like the halftime show. And so
we experienced some technical difficulties, but Daniel just states that the treaty influenced all the events that led up to the Second World War.
After that, which even still marks today, as Alex will explain right now.
Alright, so
looking back at this time period, we could see all the
devastating effects it had on the people. We saw a lot of fatalities, casualties, and although it's already decades that it has ended, we still see people grieving the losses of their ancestors and family members. We do see some survivors of the Holocaust today, but they're slowly reducing in numbers. And the major effect is that people really don't want that to happen, so we could say that we could use that as a way to prevent any future conflicts, such as the World War II. But we do see the everlasting effects in the present day.
And so that was pretty much, and even with like those lasting effects, like the Treaty of Versailles somewhat like paved way for the Cold War and later battles after World War II.
Yep.
But that's a video for another time.
Yeah, true. That's the Russian Revolution right there. So it's a little preview.
Here is this gameplay has been brought to you by Battlefield 1, a game set place in World War I, which gave us the inspiration to do this type of video.
Yeah.
So, see you next video.
All right. Thanks, guys.